Hey, you guys, I'm just back for giving a talk on decorating, and I've got so many of the same questions that I get over and over again on my blog and on the podcast. So let me get these shoes off, and we're going to sit down and I'm going to answer the top 10 decorating questions for you. Okay, the number one question that I get asked over and over again about decorating is, what is my favorite white paint? My favorite white paint is Simply White by Benjamin Moore. I've painted the inside of my house, the outside of my house, Simply White. It's a fantastic white, nice and warm, but not too much yellow. Another decorating question that I get a lot is, how do you start decorating a room? Function is the way that I start decorating a room. How are you going to use this room? How do you want to use the room? And who's going to be in the room? And then that will inform all the other decisions that we make going forward. So I don't start with a rug or even a color palette. It's how the room is going to function. Well, I guess Emmett got bored, but this is a really compelling question that's coming up. How do you hide the wires? That, my friends, is a tough one. My first suggestion is that you take a look at what you've got going on there. What is plugged in? What needs to stay? What are you not even using anymore? I speak to so many people who have DVD players or CD players. So take a hard look at it. If you don't need it, if you're listening to music on Alexa, then maybe you don't need the CD player. And then when you have the wires sort of under control and you have the ones that you have to have, you're going to have to try to mask it with some furniture. You can even use some black paint if the TV is sort of set into something. Like maybe it's a cabinet around it. You can paint the back wall black so you don't see the wires coming down. That solution's not going to work for everyone, but it might work in your case. And I also find that big baskets, like nice nubby, chunky, rattan, wicker type baskets with a very full low plant is a wonderful way to mask a router or a bunch of wires, and your machinery can still communicate with each other because it's not behind a giant solid piece of furniture. Another question that comes up more than you might think, how do I decorate when I have no entry? That's a tough one because everybody wants to have at least a little space right where they walk in the door that sort of greets you, sets the tone for what's going to come as far as your decor into the rest of the house. Also just a functional place where you can put keys or the mail or something like that. So if you have a house, like there's a lot of Cape Cods that are set up like that. I grew up in a Cape Cod that had no entryway. You basically just walked right into the living room. Sometimes a central hall colonial might be set up like that, where there's just a staircase and there's really no formal entry or a separate area. So you can create an entry with furniture placement. Depending on how you're entering the other rooms, you can maybe maneuver a piece of furniture where it's actually acting like sort of a divide. It's easy to do too, just move some stuff around and see if you like it. If you can't create some sort of separate entry with the way that you arrange the furniture, then I suggest at least having some sort of table with a drawer would be great, because then you can put in essentials like keys or the dog leash or things like that right by the door where you need it. And maybe even a chair. If you can get a bench in, that would be great, because that's a wonderful place to sit down, take your shoes on and off, that sort of thing. And that is something that's expected in an entryway. This decorating question is almost like a cry for help. I need an instant refresh. I've got company coming, or I just can't stand it anymore, and I need to just freshen up my house, and I don't have a lot of money to spend on it. Check your lampshades. Lampshades really can date a room. It's a great refresh. Try a drum shade and try it in a texture, maybe in a burlap or in a water hyacinth woven one, or even just a different color. I'm loving these black lampshades that I've recently gotten, and I just got a gorgeous lampshade that I'm going to show you. It is a neutral color and it has these nail heads on them, and it's from the Better Homes and Gardens collection. So I'm going to show that to you right now, and then I'll link it below in the description to the video. So that is my favorite lampshade these days. But there are so many lampshades out there that really are past their prime. So if you've got some of those, that is an instant budget-friendly refresh. So this question caused quite a stir at today's talk. Are accent walls still a thing? Not so much. And when I said that, I heard some groans, and then some people added in, but I have an accent wall and I love it. Well, if you have an accent wall and you love it, then rock on. But here's the thing about accent walls. They became very popular, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. It was like the new thing, and people were just creating accent walls for the sake of creating an accent wall. And you know what I'm saying? Like your room did not call out for an accent wall. The area did not call out for an accent wall. It wasn't recessed or it wasn't onto itself. And people were just painting different walls, different colors, and you know, it had its time. If you've got one like that, and if you're really on the fence about getting rid of it, maybe get rid of it. Here's the thing that you can do. Is if you have a wall that's really onto itself or it's recessed, say you had like a banquette and it was like a little eat-in kitchen area and it was separate from your kitchen, if you wanted to paint that an accent color, or if you maybe try an accent wall with texture rather than color. So shiplap it. You know, shiplap was crazy, crazy hot, but I don't think it's really ever going to go away. It's a way to texture your walls. You don't have to be screaming farmhouse to use shiplap. Try a different texture, and then still everything is painted the same color. So that's a way to get some accent without it really screaming accent wall. Here was a simple question. What kind of pillow insert is the best? One word. Down. Yeah, down feathers. If you have allergies, down alternative. You really don't want to do a poly pillow, Phil. It is cheaper, but it's just not going to give you the look that you want. So here is my favorite pillow and my favorite fabric. And here's what happens when you have it down. It's comfortable, but it comes back. It has just a nice way of sitting on your sofa or your chair. If this was in poly, it would be all like, oh, like standing up straight, all stuffed out. So that's not really the look you want. It just is really very luxurious to have the feather down. Okay, I knew this question was going to come at me. Is gray out? No, it's not. End of story. I could go on. Okay, I will go on. Gray is a neutral. Gray just became really, really popular, but that doesn't mean it's not a terrific color and it's not a color you should continue using in your home. It is. It's a wonderful color. It's a color that you find in nature. It's the color of the bathrooms in the St. Regis and the Ritz-Carlton. It is a classic color that has been around for forever. It's the color of buildings in Paris. It is just a fabulous color, and it's a color that makes other colors, bright colors even, look better. Makes white look great too. And that's really when the trend started to come on, when everybody was moving away from all the Tuscan colors and they wanted something crisper. And so the whites became really white, not yellows, and the gray was such a great contrast to that white. But because something has become overused in a sense, doesn't mean you're going to throw it all away. Gray continues to be a classic. It will into, the ages. So don't worry if you've got gray in your house. If you're planning on gray and you're like, oh darn, like did I miss the gray train? It's over. No. Just don't do your entire room gray, just like you wouldn't do your entire room yellow or purple or beige. And speaking of beige, gray is a lot more interesting than beige. So there are a ton of wonderful grays out there. I'll give you 3 of my favorites. It's Stonington Gray by Benjamin Moore, Silver Chain, also by Benjamin Moore, and Kendall Charcoal by Benjamin Moore. There's also a new color, Benjamin Moore's Color of the Year Metropolitan, which is a gray that I'm really dying to try. So let me know if you have tried that gray and how that worked out for you. Okay, everybody wants to try it, but they're like a little afraid to commit. Wallpaper. That's another decorating question I get a lot. So if you are tempted by all the beautiful wallpapers that are out there, and wallpaper is definitely very popular now, I think that you should give it a whirl. Use it in a powder room. Use it in a bigger bathroom, a master bathroom even. And if you're really skittish about it, use it in panels. I've done this thing where I've taken just long expanses of wallpaper and dropped them into framed panels that I had made very inexpensively. And I love them. So I have used those in my living room. I'm going to show you those. I also have a blog post about how to make them, and I'll link that below in the description. But that's a great way to sort of dip your toe into the whole wallpaper thing. And I'm telling you, once you start seeing and taking time to see all the beautiful wallpapers out there, you are going to want to surround yourself in at least one of your rooms with some gorgeous wallpaper. Okay, before we get to this last question, which is very controversial, I thought I'd pour myself a glass of wine. You might want to do so as well. Should I paint my stained woodwork. Oh my goodness, if I had a dime for every time I get asked this question. And it's such a personal question. It's a question that really has to do with the style of house that you have and your decor choices. If your woodwork is not great, as mine was not here, and if it is not a stain that you like at all, then you might want to consider painting it. Now, people get really bent out of shape when you paint woodwork. Well, some people do. I cannot even repeat some of the comments that I've gotten on some of the videos here when people see that we painted the woodwork here. Well, let me just go on the record as saying that our woodwork was paint grade because Victorians that didn't have a big budget were going to paint theirs anyway, and it was dark green in 1886 when the house was first finished, and then it was all taken off and stained this really bad orange. And that's when we took over and decided everything was going to be white, crisp and beautiful and white. That worked for us, and it works for this house. But painting your woodwork might not work for everyone. But if you really want to do it, I think it looks fantastic. And it definitely, definitely, definitely brightens up your space. It changed the look of this house completely. So I cannot say a blanket yes or no to that question. It depends on so many factors. And some people just feel that you should never paint wood. But those people should think about really what did the wood look like before. So I bet some of you had the same decorating questions that we covered today. So I hope that these answers helped you. Thanks so much for coming by. Don't forget to check out the links that we have below in the description. And hey, if you're really enjoying the videos, then subscribe. I would love to see you here again.